Guys, I hate to alarm you, but nothing has been the same after I looked at that picture of solar plexus, whatever his name was. I've been tweaking. I don't know what's going on, guys. I'm seeing demons. Welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, sending out a lot of love. We are almost done. We're nearing the final stages of the conspiracy theory iceberg, the CT iceberg. Shout out to Wendigoon. I actually just recently seen that he uploaded the compiled, like, all of the tiers together. And it was funny, like, having gone through the tiers and hearing him saying, like, by the end of this he's gonna upload like a compilation of it. And I was looking for the compilation because it's been over, right, for a little bit of time. So I don't know if like the final episode is like the first of this year or was like recently, but yeah, it was cool to see that go up because it was like, oh snap, I got here before that video got out. At least I have something to remember. But nonetheless, it's this cough. It's like the changing of the weather. I still have the cough, but everybody, thank you for saying like you know, get well, take care of yourself. Thanks for all of that. I'm all right. I'm here, and yeah, I just appreciate you guys. Let's kick this off. I'm in here for a long video. I just got to prepare myself because I'm like, grab your snacks. I don't know, I'm tripping. All right, here we go. Let's do it. And as always, if you enjoy, share this with your friends. Subscribe and be a part of the founders. Tell others about the founders, because we're going to take over. All right, let's go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tier 9, Part 2 of the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg.
Yes,
this is
sir.
a countdown of the final 3 episodes of the series, because after this, we're going to finish Tier 9, and then one final episode to cover Tier 10. I am so excited to talk about it. This series, as you can imagine, has been very personal for me. It's not only got the YouTube channel to where it has, but I'm now at the point where I'm doing this full time, and it's entirely thanks to you all. And every time I do this series, and I see where I progressed from the last time I did it, it's very humbling. So thank you all so much for that. I'm really stoked to talk about, so let's get into it. However, as mentioned, since I'm doing this full time now, I need to make sure that I can make a living on it. So that means, hey kids, so I know we really want to talk about giants and creepy hollow earth conspiracy stuff, but Dad's got to pay the bills. And you know what else pays? To have a wallet that you can always trust to keep your cards and cash.
Am I gonna get copyrighted for that meditation music I have off to the right? Don't kill me, guys, for that 2-second clip. What I was gonna say and why I paused it is I love how he just really adapted. Braids too tight. Adopted the whole dad thing. That's really good. That's really cool. That's
pure
funny.
At all times. And that's why today I'm here to tell you about the Ridge wallet. This wallet's got all my
wallet again.
You today. If you go to the link in the description at ridge.com /
code Wendigoon for 10% off. All right, to the iceberg.
Thank you for watching. Pyramids built by the Templars Order is exactly what it says, with a little asterisk on it. So the Templars Order, also known as the Knights Templars, are specifically the Crusaders that were put together by the Catholic Church during the Crusades. Now, there are several overarching theories of the Templars Order, some saying that they invented more things in history than
to me, this would just be a lot of work. They had to be well, you know how the picture suggests, you know how it's like the Templar Order? So if this is kind of one of the true, I would say, like, it has to be other people, and it can't be the knights, right? Because imagine that. Imagine being ordered to literally build the pyramids when you guys are like built, or like your whole mind and body is crafted for sword warfare and taking back the Holy Lands.
History gives them credit for, some saying they still exist today or whatever. However, this specific theory is going off of the...
They do. Assassin's Creed. That's exactly what I thought when reading the list. Like, Assassin's Creed. Well, that whole game is an alternate universe where You know what I noticed? Isn't it weird that it seems like most games? No, not most. So, some of the Tom Clancy games, but they're like based in some sort of reality. It's weird. It's like the games themselves are ARG. Isn't that technically true about all games? That all games are technically ARGs, alternate reality games. I just thought about that. Okay, sorry, I'm going down the rabbit hole too.
The idea that the Templars are the spiritual descendants of the Masons. The Masons, at least as we're going to look at them for this theory, are believed to be created and founded by Solomon during the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. So the idea is King Solomon, who was the son of King David, put together this order known as the Masons in order to build the temple and keep whatever secrets he had held close. And then over the centuries, that same group maintained these secrets within themselves and eventually became the Templars Order. So what's this have to do with the pyramids? Well, the pyramids, as you probably know, are considered a marvel of construction. In other words, it's not really known how at the time the inside of the pyramids was as intricately done as it was. This has led to theories like aliens helping the Egyptians build the pyramids, because it's not believed that any group of people at the time were advanced enough in their engineering in order to build them. However,
yeah, which that ties into more hidden stuff about the Egyptians, because it's like they were probably that advanced and it's just hidden. But one thing, Egyptian pyramid. This is the meme that I always reference. Or, well, it's not something I always reference because it's very situational. But I'm trying to find the one where it showed. Let me see if I can see the fist. Probably not. It's a very specific meme that pops up sometimes, from time to time in the algorithm. Yeah, okay, I can't find it. It was like I talked about it. It was like a picture of a pharaoh's coffin, because they're coffin. It was a picture of like a pharaoh's tomb, or like, I don't know, the body. You know what I'm talking about, sarcophagus. And it showed like the statue's hand clenched in a fist, and it said, "When they blame the aliens for building your pyramids." Or like when you spent your whole life building the pyramids and it gets fucking, the aliens take credit. That shit has me weak every time.
Some have pointed out several of the symbols and the sort of signage seen around the
pyramids
is
suggest
very similar to that used by the Masons and therefore the Templars.
Yeah.
Remember that thing I said, that the idea behind this conspiracy is
that
that the Masons were created in order to guard safely kept knowledge? And remember the theories I've mentioned previously of things like the Great Reset? Well, what if an order like the Masons or the Templars had advanced knowledge of what the world was like before everything reset itself? So according to this theory, you have this one group throughout history who has all the schematics, all the information and knowledge from the world previous, and is now enacting that in this current iteration. So the reason the pyramid would be so advanced for its time in history is because those that built it had knowledge of humanity's previous cycle. So if the Templars built the pyramid, the reason they were able to do it is because maybe they knew how it was built on the first go-around. Or you could even go farther and say perhaps the pyramids have been there since that previous go-around and are just a holdover from that, or whatever level of absurd, crazy fun you want to have with it. Endless elevators are a phenomenon that's been reported by several urban...
Endless elevators. I would hate to get stuck on one of these. I want to say more about the pyramids, but I don't actually know. We'll come back to that. I gotta blow my nose. It'll only be a cut for you. I don't like cutting in reaction videos because it's like you gotta get the one whole like lovely stream. Why am I holding the pic? The one whole lovely stream of uninterruptions, so you know, you just feel like it's authentic. Well, watch, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna have twice the energy. Watch this. Yeah. Let's fucking go, boys and girls, ladies and gents, men, women, and children, monsters and aliens and orange juice bottles. I remember a story back in high school that we learned about where someone was like, it's like when the first of the identification started kicking off, at least from what I remember, like, or us catching wind of it, but people identifying as orange juice bottles and stuff like that. I was like, hey, to each their own, right? Now, back to endless elevators.
And explorers. Supposedly, Within abandoned buildings, there exist these elevator shafts that go in far excess of the building's dimensions. Or basically, they'll find an empty elevator shaft in which, inside the abandoned building, the elevator is permanently parked above, say, the second or third floor. And then whenever they stand on the first floor and shine a flashlight down, it seems like it goes on forever. There's even been some people go as far as to map out where these are located, and there are upwards of 500 of these supposed endless shafts in existence. The theory surrounding the endless elevator is that it is a transport system between caverns located within the Earth and the surface world. In other words, either these people or creatures that exist in subterranean areas are using these elevators as a way to get from our world back down to theirs. And furthermore, whoever is in charge of building these buildings has direct knowledge of them and is either part of it or at least facilitating it. There's also several connections to things like missing persons cases and the idea that people who go missing in cities may be taken into these cave systems. And there's been
You know what's another weird thing about that is the movie, is it Cabin in the Woods? Where, well, okay, I don't want to spoil it, but you know what I'm referring to, the Cabin in the Woods. I don't know if that's the movie though, I might be wrong, but you know what I'm referring to when it comes to the endless elevators.
If I've talked about earlier on this Iceberg about underground laboratories and these underground sort of train systems that transport people back and forth. And this is supposedly the means of getting people underground and may, in some cases, still be in use. Divinity's playing card game is a sort of meta look at existence itself, and the theory says that all the different religious figures are in fact real and are playing a sort of amusement game with each other, and we're simply the pawns. In other words, the way that the game goes could result in natural disasters, or different rounds of the game could represent different ages of history. And that's pretty much it. You know,
I like the picture you used.
A picture of like all those dogs sitting around a table playing cards. Well, it's like that, only instead of dogs, it's like Odin and Ra.
Oh, and Ra
and Jesus. Regurgitation rituals are a sort of ritual that was experienced in old world religions. It works off the idea that by ingesting something and then throwing it back up, you're essentially cleansing yourself from within in both a spiritual and physical sense. So practitioners of these rituals will eat a variety of things in order for the chemicals or essence within it to cleanse their own body. Now, if you're looking to eat something that contains...
Who's getting down with this right here? Who's getting down with the regurgitation rituals? Bro, it sucks because I can't talk for long or the cough starts coming on, bro. That's such an annoying part of this. I want to like say completely clear and funny sentences to you guys, and I'm like, pitiful, bro.
An essence, because the idea is the stronger the essence of whatever you eat, the more powerful it is at cleaning you out.
Somebody send me a sensu bean.
Do you think probably has the strongest essence? That's right, people. So, you know all those theories?
What the they're eating people to regurgitate people? What is with these cults? I'm probably like yelling into the mic. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. I'm usually better about audio with this. I'm sorry. Wow, as we get to the end tiers, it just gets weirder.
About the world elites being these cannibals who send people around the world in order to just eat them. Well, this is one of the theories for why that may be the case. By consuming the essence or body of someone else and then forcing yourself to regurgitate it, you're making the essence of that human clean your own soul, basically. So if you're driving home at night and you see 10 hooded figures circled on the road just throwing up in a circle, you probably shouldn't be there for several reasons, but being eaten's one of them. Hook operator.
You shouldn't be there for several reasons, but being eaten is one of them. You should just you should just commit minecart. The minecarts don't even damage, but you know where I'm going with this.
Operators comes from a book known as Operators and Things. This book was written by a woman named Barbara O'Brien, who was writing about her experience when it came to schizophrenia. Basically, she had this idea because of her schizophrenia of how the world worked, so she wrote a book describing exactly how she saw people. And
let me guess. It's like one of those things where the mental disease is actually a gift. which I swear sometimes most mental diseases are like a gift. Not like, you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about like in those very specific cases where like, I don't remember if it was the guy who had, was it schizophrenia, or he had something where he had like an illness or what they would label a defect. I just don't like looking at people like that because it's like words like defect I feel like are degrading, but I guess that's the level of depending on like how they personally feel about the word, because words, don't hurt you if you're not reactive. But I don't know. I don't want to be using those words. But anyways, the thing was he was blind or something like that, but he could like, and that's not a mental illness, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm like kind of comparing it to when someone has a disability, but like the disability makes them like absolutely superhuman in another aspect or something like that. So like her hook operations were like fucking accurate or something.
In existence. According to her, there's a small part of the population known as hook operators. These hook operators have the ability to spread their core charisma or sort of essence onto other people and make them see the world as the way that they see it. Or in other words, there's this small percentage of people who work as these sort of charismatic figures that can manipulate others to do whatever they want. And as for the majority of people, they are simply the things, or people that do not have the willpower to express their own emotions and desires and instead need a hook operator in order to guide them. The term hook operator comes from the quite literal metaphor of people being hooked and then operated in order to act however the operator wants them to. Yeah. And in a lot of these cases, Barbara said that these hook operators operate as a sort of psychic vampire, or in other words, they leech energy off of the things, and then after the hook operator has left the thing's presence, that thing doesn't have the energy to continue without its operator. This can be expanded into many things. From politics.
It really could, yeah.
And world leaders in general, and people who exhibit signs of control over others. However, that's a whole bag of worms I don't want to get into, so we're just going to keep moving. Regenerative death consumption is similar in a lot.
Yeah, what had me weak was it could even be said about like YouTubers. Like PewDiePie could technically be a hook operator, or technically aren't all of us online that gather like people who enjoy our content we're hook operators in a certain sense. Think about it. You guys are getting hooked by me. Nah, I'm just joking. Run while you still can. Or come on down and be a founder. Come on, we're gonna go take over. Man, it would be so easy to just talk completely fluently without interruption. Because like when I feel the cough coming, I try to hold it back. All right, regenerative death consumption.
A lot of ways to that regurgitation ritual thing I just mentioned, only a bit more gross. So going back to old like pagan beliefs and traditions, there was another specific idea when it came to eating the dead. In a lot of old world beliefs, there were ideas that the body and soul are much more intertwined than we understand them to be. Like, for example, if you ask your average religious person today what happens when someone dies, there is a distinct separation between body and soul. Whereas in several old world beliefs, the body and soul were interlinked until someone did something with the body. Like, for example, the ancient Egyptians believed that their leaders needed to be mummified and have their organs harvested. And a ton of different world religions believed the body either needed to be burned or buried to make sure that the soul gets into the afterlife. So the regenerative death consumption enthusiast asked the question, what if I eat it? Because theoretically, if the soul is still attached to the body and you eat the body, then the soul becomes attached to you. There were old world beliefs that had the idea that if you just ate a bunch of people's bodies, you could not only gain their power, but theoretically their remaining lifespan.
Hence, the anime Attack on Titan was born.
So, one could, theoretically, achieve a form of immortality if they just ate enough corpses. A lot of sort of ideas like this became legends for things like Nosferatu, or just vampiric legend in general. Oh. And if there's some person you just don't like, for whatever reason, who's alive today, you can just say that he's a vampire from the 1400s who's been eating people for like 700 years. That's like a joke now, but in the 1700s, that's how the majority of like legal trials worked. Chakra removal is the idea that one can take a chakra and remove it. The chakras are supposedly the different windows to the souls and different places of energy within the body. So removing them...
I think you can manipulate them, but you can't remove them. I doubt that you can remove them. From everything that I've seen in research, I remember certain people asking if, like, you could. And to be honest, I don't even entertain the thought because it's like, they're kind of like, if you get any, and I mean any, just basic chakra book, it'll literally explain to you that these could be blocked or, I was gonna say stifled. They can be blocked, but it's basically the things that make up, 7 circuits in your brain, 7 chakras. It's like they basically make up everything that goes on in a way. If you just find a chakra book, you'll see what I'm talking about, but I don't.
Would in a way be kind of like removing someone's soul.
Yeah,
or at
you'd
least a
be,
piece of
yeah.
it. However, there are theories that using the right forms of black magic and other forms of witchcraft, one may remove the chakra from someone else and in essence kind of deprive them of their humanity. There's even been people apply this concept to things like the MK Ultra experiment.
See, that's the thing though, when he says deprive them of their humanity, I don't think your soul has to do with humanity at all. I think your soul has to do with certain things to serve, like get through all the debaucherous stuff that goes on Earth, but your soul is pure at the end of the day, no matter what the human experience is, because your soul was innocent. Like, if you think about, like, okay, there's a lot I can get into that. I think I'm just not gonna unearth it here. Also, speaking of this, please, if you would like me, because I know you guys said definitely, like, there's topics I find interesting, put them down below, but if there's certain ones that you would like me to, like, cover more, put them down below. I would make a video on it, as covering other requests. But if it like interests me enough, I'll just hop it to the front of the line. But please put it down below, because I definitely want to hear what you guys think are interesting from these lists and stuff like that. I'm not gonna know too much on which ones I can't touch on further. So if they're like classified, my channel get boom, scary, I all of a sudden Minecraft leave the server, commit leave alive, like yeah, in words to Wendigoon, I did it. Yeah, I don't know.
Or other weird government experiments where they tried to simply make sleeper agents. And one of the theories of sleeper agents themselves is by removing the chakra from someone, you can then reinsert it with whatever you want. So in this case, a code or activation or what have you, in order to have a mindless agent. The idea being, if you remove a piece of someone's soul, you can fill it in with whatever you want. Sexual erotic energy is saying that whenever someone is sexual or erotic, it lets off a tangible physical form of energy. Now, not energy like if you were to stab yourself with an electric plug, it would turn on a light bulb, although that would be funny, but it creates energy that can be used in different forms of magic or alchemy.
Taoism.
I've mentioned on this Iceberg before about how there was ideas in centuries before ours about how the appropriate way forward in science wasn't through things like electricity, but instead energy and the spiritual. This is kind of saying that if we did go that direction, then libido would be used as a legitimate form of power, or power in whatever form power would exist.
Shit, it already is. The whole thing, and you can, what's like crazy? You can tie this into naughty websites. Is that what I should call them? Because I don't know if there's like a problem with actually saying the word, but how people get addicted to them naughty websites and be wanking it every other night. If we're talking about sexual and erotic energy, people believe that those websites are ways to drain this energy from you, because sexual energy is the strongest thing here. Because think about how you got here. You have 2 parents that had to do the thing and literally drag your soul into this fucking mess of a whatever. No, it's a beautiful world if you see it like that, but you do have to acknowledge the bad shit that goes on this sometimes. Not bad shit, we're above good and bad. It's just like, I would say, the necessary evils, to be honest, to balance out the world. I just can't see it as simply as black and white anymore, just knowing what I know. But Yeah, sexual energy is like one of the strongest here, because of literally it's like the main one, the root chakra. It's the bottom. It's how you get here. But what he said about like for how we would advance, it would be more of a spiritual thing rather than like anything else moving forward. And you can you can see that with the world now, because if you look at you look back into like I don't know what era, I don't know like to call it, like the 70s, the 90s, or where there was that whole hippie thing going on. There's been like highs and lows of golden ages where spirituality like flickers and makes a reappearance. And I feel like this is what he was talking about there is an example of like what's happening now, is like we are advancing in spirituality and stuff coming back, because it's almost like a race between the two. They're trying to make AI, robots, this, but like blah, 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 and other things he talked about. But on the other side, you see so many people like, and you see the people who are profiting off of these things, which is sad at times, and they're just regurgitating other stuff rather than they're part of the regurgitation cult, but regurgitate other like manifesting and all that, and law of attraction. You see that the world is actually going in that direction. You see a lot more of that, the astrology tying into it, like, what's your star sign and this, that, and then it's like you see it already progressing that way, because it's almost like a natural unfolding of these events because they need to happen. So you see what I'm saying. I don't think I got to explain that. You could like look and see. But if you don't, you'll see it more. It'll just get more intense, more intense, more intense.
Furthermore, this is saying that demons that exist, like a succubus and incubus, that are supposed to seduce humans, actually exist as a form of energy parasite. Or basically the reason that they do those seduction acts is as a means of harvesting your energy. So the next time you think someone just wants you for your body, they don't. They want you for your secret soul battery thing.
No,
Treat.
Yeah, I know Wendigoon like moves on to the next one, but that shit is very, very true. There's actually people you can see it in videos, like, and people talk about it. But you know what? Let me just talk about it from personal experience so I can like say it. You know what? I'll say personal experience, and I'll say a story of a girl I knew where I told her to be careful about like, sleeping with people, because you take on their trauma or their unhealed stuff, right? And she was feeling good, like for the whole week, feeling good, nothing going wrong, right? I told her, just be careful. She slept with this one person, and after she did, all of a sudden a rush of like these depressing feelings, like almost like it felt like it was baggage that wasn't her. And that's the whole, I can show you like 2 cups and kind of explain this whole like diagram, but it's basically like if you're just sleeping around, energy, everything is energy. Like, where's my phone, bro? I'm gonna show you. Everything is energy, everything is frequency, everything is source. You create your own reality. But no, it's very true. If you sleep with, not saying to scare you off from doing that, like enjoy the human experience, but if you don't really pick your partner safely or respect yourself, you can really fuck up your energy like bad. And if like you're already someone who has things that they're dealing with mentally, it's like you're actually not doing the other person really justice. But if you sleep with someone who also has those, issues, if they're like a reflection of you, you're just going to double yours. You take on, well, you guys, it's an energy exchange. So it's just going to double. And it's just like, yeah, but I was going to say I've had cases where it feels like I was drained by the other person, because all of a sudden, like, I'm feeling all low and stuff, and then they're happy, excited, feeling good, and just, where did all that energy come from? I'd be looking at that like, that's usually me. And that's an example of, yeah, Okay, I'm done here.
Trees are mammals. Yep. Time history moves in.
That's why I don't think you should hook up with people. But hey, that's just me, because I don't like hookups. Trees are mammals.
Trees are mammals.
That's it.
Yep. Time history moves in. Okay, no, I'm kidding. I'll go back. So trees, as we know them, do have forms of communication with each other, and through things like chemical signaling, they're able to talk to each other. The idea is way back.
Take that, vegans.
Evolutionary tree. There was a branch between mammals and trees. branch. Anyway. And from a common ancestor, the two shot off from each other. I've mentioned a lot at this point the ideas of forest having this sort of hidden energy, or the idea that there are living things within mountains. Well, if trees have a sort of collective consciousness that is more intricate than our current understanding forms of life, then perhaps a lot of the supernatural...
Get out there and talk to some trees, guys. I'm telling y'all, tap into that realm. Bro, the trees have been around here.
Things that take place within the woods are the responsibility of the trees themselves, and not whatever we think is out there amongst the trees. Or in other words, perhaps trees as they exist are a more complicated organism than we currently think. Time and history moves in reverse is referring to something known as retrocausality. Retrocausality. Yeah.
Retrocausality? What?
Word is a way of saying that the effect makes the cause and not the other way around. In other words, our understanding of how the world works is I do an action, therefore an event occurs. This is saying that things are preordained. So therefore, this thing in the future has to happen, so that causes me to make a series of steps that lead to that happening. So history and events as we understand them do not exist because of the actions of people, instead because we have to hit these certain graphs, and therefore people were forced to take action to get there. Every time you go down the rabbit hole of research with this, it always comes out to something related to simulation theory, or almost similar to that divinity's playing a card game thing I talked about. Basically the idea that something is making sure certain events take place, and we're pretty much just bystanders who are forced to walk the path.
But that thing would be you, right? Because if everything is source and everything is God, or well, this is how I see it, just to give you a different perspective, because I know what I think deep in this noodle. But that would mean it's you. It's literally you at the top doing this, because you are the same deities that are playing the game. Anywho, but the whole time, no, like that goes, well, okay. Well, see what I mean? Because this goes against cause, literally one of the 7 laws of the universe, which is cause and effect. Now, laws are meant to be broken. That corny saying. But law is law, right? And if the law of cause and effect, it just, okay. So if people believe in God and the divine mind, and the divine thought creates brains, hearts, livers, like I've said this line before because I'm taking it from KRS-One. But if the universe was birthed from frequency, thought, and energy, and all of this is just a thought, and we're all in a dream, it's the thought first that gave birth to all of this. So it's cause and effect. I don't think time or history moves in reverse. This is one of those ones where I'm just like, nah, take it for a cool theory, but I don't believe it, because I've seen a lot of cases where everything that someone does is cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to like creating a reality they want, like they get the idea in their head, they want to change the person, who they are. They want to change who they are. So thus creating the cause, and then the effect is those actions and everything that they take place in, like embodying that version of themselves that they see themselves to be. Okay, we're done.
Path of it all. Mathfault of Trinidad was really hard to find anything about, so bear with me here. With a lot of the ones this deep into the iceberg, people will mention it in passing, but they won't really talk about what it is, so I've kind of had to like fill in the gaps in some parts, so let's see how this goes. On the island of Trinidad off the coast of Venezuela, there is a supposed thing known as the Math Vault. Around a series of caves and caverns in the area, there we go back to caverns again, there are several mathematical equations carved into rock. And to anyone who looks at them, even researchers and other high-minded people, it's pretty much just nonsense. Or in other words, all these half-finished equations just kind of seem like random numbers rather than an actual long strung-out equation. Now the theories around it are that these numbers are a sort of divine number, and the reason they look senseless to most people is because most people aren't divine or gifted enough to understand them. And in theory, if someone was to understand them and figured it out, they would be able to open this math vault. And what happens after that is anyone's guess. Some people say that they would be able to unlock a sort of algorithm that determines the state of world affairs or future occurrences that are going to happen. Some think that it's a method to talk to aliens, and that whoever can open up the math vault will have a means to communicate with extraterrestrials. It's anyone's guess, but the basic
It's like a Battlefield 3 Easter egg.
idea is that there is this hidden code on the island of Trinidad that
Or
no one's been able to
Battlefield
figure
4.
out yet. Entity merging is a concept when it comes to computing. However, what it basically means is whenever you have two different things that share the same name. So apply that to the real world and say we have two of the same person existing in different areas, or as we'll say here, in different timelines. This goes back to a lot of concepts of string theory, and this is pretty much a form of quantum entanglement, or the idea of two different existing things merging together. The idea with entity merging is on either side of two separate timelines or strings or universes, whatever you want to call it, you have two instances of the same person, and either by accident or ritual or whatever, the two merge into one. Now, this could be used as everything from the Mandela effect to supposed gaps in history. In other words, perhaps the reason that people just seemingly disappear at random, or perhaps the reason you seem to misremember events from your own past, is because you merged with a slightly altered version of yourself, or that previously mentioned missing person just merged with a different version of their self. Inside out Earth. Flat Earth, get it out of here. Hollow Earth, amateur. Inside out Earth, now we're talking. Inside out Earth is exactly what it says. It's the concept that the Earth exists within itself, and gravity as we understand it is not the motion of the Earth spinning and pinning us down, but instead the centrifugal force of the Earth pinning us essentially to the walls. So if you take that idea and then take concepts like Hollow Earth, or the idea that there are these hidden cavernous systems underneath us, that would actually be a way to get quote-unquote outside of Earth. Hence one of the reasons that the supposed hollow Earth is such a safely kept secret. And the sun, as we know it, is just kind of like a really small sun in the middle of the sort of floating area that is the inside of the Earth. And you may ask yourself, well, how do we like look at space and stuff? That's just because whenever we look at space, we're looking at like these little cracks that go outside of the inside out Earth. I mean, why do you think the sky's blue, huh? It's because you're looking at the ocean above you, idiot. Human biocapital is an absolutely terrifying couple of words, but here we go anyway. It's the quite literal idea that humans are used as a resource capital throughout history and even in the modern world. We understand that things like slavery used to exist, but imagine after slavery became kind of taboo, instead they moved to using people as either a fuel source, either as food, or quite literally fuel source. There's supposedly things like the Afghan cannibal caves, or the idea that there are these groups of shepherds that exist throughout the Afghanistan mountain system who have been raising humans over the centuries to sell to these world powers as a food source. And along with things I mentioned earlier like China and the meat market trade, with the ideas that all of these elites are selling humans to each other. It's one horrifying thing to imagine that people are used in these sort of markets. It's an even more horrifying thing to imagine that people are used as a primary economy source and influence world decisions based on whoever can sell the most goods. TGA gray spacing is another one of those things like the
Jesus, that one is like, what the fuck? But like, that's one of the ones on this list where you could really see that shit would probably be happening.
The math vault of Trinidad, where I had to piece together a bunch of sort of ideas of something, so bear with me. TGA is short for something known as transient global amnesia. This is basically a situation in which several people forget major historical events. And gray spacing, as it's defined here, is a quite literal version of sort of blacking out or forgetting large gaps in time. So TGA gray spacing, as I understand it, is the idea that there are powers at hand making people forget major historical events. A lot of concepts around this relate back to things like time dilation or amnesiacs, or in other words, you can induce people to either misremember large periods of time or just forget things entirely. And it relates back to the idea that through some form of magic or ritual or even science, powers at hand can make people forget certain events. So, if there are large groups of people who forgot major events that happened, what's to say all of us, in some way, haven't been made to forget certain things that have happened? What if there's been some cataclysmic event that would destroy people's perception of reality? Or what if there's been national security breaches that put entire governments at threat? If in things like
we'd
MK
never
Ultra
know.
and all that, we see that the government has been experimenting with people and how to make them forget things, what's to say we haven't been made to forget things ourselves? The ocean at night refers to a specific event that happened in the Gulf of Aden. I need to explain a couple of things for this to make sense. So for one, there is this thing seen in marine life known as vertical migration. Basically, if there is a creature that does not like the light and prefers the darkness, then as the sun goes up, it goes deeper underwater, and as the sun goes away, it may go closer to the surface. And alternatively, if there is an animal that likes the light and it's a very bright day, it may go deeper underwater, but as the sun leaves, it may find light sources near the surface or even above water. Hence the term vertical migration, because within a day, these ocean life creatures could migrate up or down depending on the light. This is also believed to be part of the reason why massive underwater predators are never seen on the surface, because if they're nocturnal and simply follow food sources as they move underwater, then the food source that they're chasing probably won't ever go up to the surface, because at night, whenever this creature is active, there isn't a giant light source for them to get to. This is the reason that whenever you go night fishing, you set a light out in the water, because the little fish come to find the light because that's what they follow, and then the big fish follow them. So in the Gulf of Aden in the year 2010, there was a project for something that I've only seen called the artificial sun. I believe the purpose of it is it was a sort of thermal reactor that they decided to place within the ocean as a cooling system, or in other words, a very, very bright light source that creates a lot of energy that is harvested for power. So they set it in the ocean as a means of keeping it cool. However, remember that whole artificial light thing makes things move differently in water? So they set a fake sun on the ocean, and supposedly that woke up something very big. During this artificial
That's
sun
exactly
project,
okay. I'm glad I knew where that was going, because I was like, "What the fuck did it wake up?" Or what? Okay, so let's just get to the Loch Ness monster, or something even bigger than that, attacking something in the night.
There were 82 earthquakes reported in a 48-hour period around the area. Shortly after that, 27 different world navies sent their soldiers to fight quote-unquote pirates around the area. However, leaked text log leaks...
This is Sea of Thieves? What, did they wake up ghost ships?
have shown that there was a giant vortex in the area they were responding to instead. And the whole fighting pirates thing was just a farce made up in order to dissuade interest.
Yeah.
So imagine there is this giant superfish underwater that periodically eats things like, I don't know, sharks or whales or whatever. However, it never comes up to the surface because its prey never travels up that far.
Yeah.
Now imagine you set a giant sun on top of the ocean and all of the prey animals go to it, and the giant fish comes, and that's what supposedly happened. So supposedly in 2010 in the Gulf of Aden, due to our own stupidity, we woke up a giant Cthulhu thing, and then a bunch of navies had to go deal with it. Thank you, WikiLeaks, for that. Berry bushes are a theory around the missing four...
That one was fucking my favorite. That was fucking awesome, bruh. I would cover something like that more, but that was good on its own, just to sit where it's at. That deserves, yeah.
One incidents in the U.S. I'm going to start an entire series about missing 411 because there's way too many interesting things to talk about. But short version for now, around the United States every year, an unholy amount of people go missing in national parks. Not only that, but it's almost always through really weird circumstances. Like someone will be found dead and naked on the side of a trail, and then their clothes found like neatly folded 10 miles away. Or people will be found ripped to pieces at the top of a tree with their shoes gone for some reason. And berry bushes are a theory that someone proposed why this may be the case. So there are several plants as we understand them in the natural world that have hallucinogenic effects. Well, someone asked the question, what if there is like a berry bush or something similar that exists in the United States parks that we just don't know about, that whenever someone inhales it in, they just go mad? This would explain things like kids being able to run 9 miles away and then collapsing, or people taking off all of their clothes before folding them up and then running up a mountainside. The idea behind this is perhaps there is a plant that we don't know about, or maybe the powers that be don't want us to know about, that causes people to essentially go mad, run away, and lead to these disappearance cases. The skies will
imagine that does exist, and then what fucking sucks, this is why I say if the iceberg, gets you a little freaked out, don't worry, it's all right. I'm freaked out along with you. No, I'm just joking. I'm pretty all right. But imagine that as like a real thing, and then you being one of the unlucky like people he's referring to within these stories of people just going missing and fucking being cut up and like just in random spots, or their clothes being neatly folded. It's like, imagine one of you being the ones to run into a bush like that. I'm even thinking about that for myself, because I like my occasional walk in the park, and imagine just seeing a berry bush. Just and then that's it. You just seen a berry bush, and next thing you know, you're in the river of your hometown, like just like trying to swim to the bottom, and I don't know. Your clothes, you wake up, or I guess they mostly end up dead or missing, right? So then you like wake up. Where was I going with this? I was gonna say, wake up beheaded and your clothes are nicely folded on top of a dumpster.
alive. So remember, like, I forget how many years ago, I talked about the concept of UFOs being these living creatures. Okay, so apply that to all of it. This is saying that the astral bodies, like stars and planets and the sky itself as we know it, is a sort of organism that is specifically trying to communicate with us. The idea being that the stars themselves as they exist were made as a sort of navigation system for us to use, but not only that, it allows a constant state of surveillance.
Oddly enough with that, that's why some people believe the pyramids were built, because if you look at the position of the pyramids, they match some of the constellations in the sky. You can research this for yourself if you'd like to.
Most of this ties back into simulation theory, with the idea that the sky is sort of the net around our simulation itself, and changements and movements in it can be everything from maintenance to a sort of system glitch or reset on itself or whatever. And in whatever regard, the sky itself is its own responsive system. Volcanoes' real purpose. So you know that whole reset theory thing that I've mentioned? How humanity exists and then we all wipe ourselves out for some reason and then the whole cycle just keeps going. And you know how like currently nuclear energy is the thing that's all cool, and as time moves on we develop more and more of these nuclear or thermal reaction systems. And you know how volcanoes are weird because they're like this random just giant amalgamation of thermal and nuclear energy just in the middle of these mountains? The idea is that perhaps volcanoes are the leftover remnants of nuclear energy from the previous cycle. That if within these mountain systems we allowed a nuclear plant to sort of go haywire and exist for hundreds and thousands of years, it would eventually develop into a volcano. So these previous world's power sources are now seen as these giant volcanic rocks in our current loop. Yeah, loop, that works. And perhaps volcanoes themselves are one of the last remaining remnants of the societies that existed before us and in advancement to us. Nano UFOs and giga UFOs. So as most people understand them, UFOs are like about the size of a ship, or the flying saucer.
Giga UFOs.
Saucer in the air, whole thing. So nano UFOs can be as small as something that can fit into your bloodstream, with the idea being that these flying saucers can go inside of people and cause them to do whatever they want, similar to smart dust, which I mentioned earlier. And giga UFOs can be clouds or stars or the entire sky itself. The idea being that these unbelievably massive UFOs exists potentially all around us as either a surveillance system, or it goes back to either the whole simulation idea of we're just being watched and these gig UFOs could be like the entire world around us, or alternatively we're just really small, which is a bit more wholesome, I think, probably. I do have to mention, in research for like the nano UFO specifically, I came across this entire like small book this dude wrote about how a fly had been following him around, and he was convinced it was a nano UFO that was tracking his location and reporting it to someone. And like one of the top replies, someone was like, I think that's just a fly. And the original guy goes, no. Like, these are all fun, but it is kind of sad. So
it really would have been funny if the guy was just, you're probably right.
Sometimes I'll admit, like, see, like, if someone believed in all of these at once, I don't think they'd be able to function at anything, really.
Yeah.
Like, if you believe the sky simultaneously is a giga UFO, a living creature, as well as a map above the simulation, that's got to be rough. And that'll do it for part 2.
Oh shit! Oh no, the one that I was talking about earlier, just so I could give some more context, is that the constellations and stuff were basically the same of the connecting back to the Dogon tribe. Is there was specific altars that were built under each respective constellation or something like that, because there's pyramids all over the world. They're not just in Egypt, and like this. You just have to do the research for yourself, but you'll know what I mean. And it's supposed to map out something. It was crazy. Like, I could go into this another time, or just like, just maybe if it comes up. But yeah, it's this whole thing that it's like, it's a weird thing. But
of tier 9 of the conspiracy theory.
There we go,
Iceberg.
2 of 3.
We are almost to the end of this, and that is so wild to me. Because, like, when I started this, it was just a fun little, I mean, it's still just a fun little project. I have no idea how I got this far. But it's still just a fun project that I'm doing because I think it's neat. And now we are where we're at, and it's blowing my mind. So we've only got 2 left, and then there's going to be the whole massive episode thing, which is going to be terrifying for sure when someone watches that. But I'm excited. I'm thrilled. The reason these take a while to get out is because now, like, thanks to you guys, because you all are so fantastic, I'm doing this YouTube thing full time, which means I've got sponsors to meet and like deadlines to meet and stuff like that. And research for this takes forever. So if I was to just like do 3 in a row, it would take like several weeks, versus being able to get normal videos out much quicker.
He said so normal because of what he covers.
But I'm excited. I really can't wait to get to tier 10 because I've looked at some of those terms and man, they are spooky. So I'm excited. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I think we're at like 597,000 subs or some number that doesn't exist like that. And it's really mind-blowing to me, and you guys are great. And I can't believe it. So thank you all so much for that. Thank you so much to my top-tier patrons over here. You guys have been fantastic. There wasn't a podcast last week. I've been...
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Oh, shoot. Well, that's it for me, man. Long episode. Here you guys go. Enjoy. I'm tired. I'm hit, man. Doing these and then trying to double his time just to be like also transformative and respectful of what like the work he put in, and just, you know, do my own content, which is talking over it. Yeah, I appreciate all of you guys too, man. I hope you enjoyed the long episode. I can't wait to get to tier 10. Like, and all of these concepts have been cool so far as you got to the further ones. Wow, it's been a fucking journey, man. It's been a fucking journey. This has been awesome. this is like one of the best things I think ever recommended to me to watch. There's been like Hell's Reach from Warhammer 40k, and just like, oh man, it's just been great. All right. Whew. Much love, and moonlight. I will see you in the next one. Peace.